Here we go. We should be live. We're trying out a whole new stream format, setup, everything. So go ahead, let me know in the chat if you can see this. If you see that I'm here and that we're doing this thing. I'm gonna get some other stuff pulled up here. Oh, I'm not logged into anything on this. Oh, that's good. Yep, there they are. Awesome. What's up, guys? We're gonna get this rolling. We're gonna wait just a couple minutes here, let some people roll in. Awesome. Get that turned down. Heck yeah. I'm gonna go drop a note in the Discord, let everybody know that I'm live with Gary. And yeah, we'll just give this a couple minutes here. How's everybody's week? How's the pinball world doing? I have been head and shoulders and neck and knees and toes deep in the machines this week. We've been hiring on so many new employees, getting everybody trained to keep building these games, and it's been crazy. You get a lot of characters when you hire on a lot of new people, so getting everybody trained up on the fundamentals and the pinball basics and needs, so that you can get them into the more the meat and potatoes of the positions and everything. So it's been an interesting week, to say the least, but we're getting it done. We're getting people trained up and going, and yeah, it's been fun. We got some Evil Dead code coming your guys' way next week. Yeah, we should be live streaming new Evil Dead code next week. We've got the kitchen fight and destroy the book modes coming your way. I was playing kitchen fight earlier. Super fun mode. You guys are gonna love it. Heck yeah, we got a bunch more people rolling in. I've been trying to get a day off so I can come down to Benton. Do it. I just gave a tour earlier to the most lovely two different families. They showed up at the same time. Two different families, gave a tour of the whole factory earlier, spent an hour chatting with them, and super fun time. I love giving the tours. It takes me a second to get out of work mode to tour mode, but it's fun. I always love having the tours. Hilton says kitchen fight is so fun. That's right. Pays to be an insider, right, Hilton? Well, awesome. I think we're going to go ahead. We're going to bring Gary in just a second here. I don't want to keep him waiting in the green room too long. He's too handsome for me to keep behind the curtains. We got to get him in here. I got to come up with a proper intro for when I cut this and put this on YouTube later, of course. How's everything sound? I'm trying out a new microphone. Everything look and sound okay so far? Just want to make sure before we get really kicked off here and bring our special guest on. Our first ever remote interview. It's not our first interview, but it's our first ever remote interview. And I'm really excited for this one. I got introduced to Gary. We didn't get to talk one-on-one until quite a ways into the whole Evil Dead thing that we kind of communicated through my friend Jason, actually. But as we started developing more things in the future, we started talking a lot more together, working together closely on stuff. He's been absolutely phenomenal. Gary is, in case you guys haven't heard of this topper, this Cheryl topper for Evil Dead, it is the most successful topper of all time in pinball history. I'm pretty sure. It is. I'm just going to say it is. I mean, over 88% sales rate on the toppers. We sold over 784 of those bad boys. And we did order some extras too. So we're actually still kind of selling them. So most successful topper of all time, designed by this incredible person who has one of the most decorated film careers you've ever seen. And we're going to talk all about that because I've been dying to know more about it. And on top of all that, hands down, my favorite British person to work with. So without further ado, Gary, let's get you in here. And welcome to the show.
How many British people have you worked with, though? That's the question.
There's been a few.
There you go. I thought I was the only one, maybe. You know what I mean?
Actually, my next week's stream is going to be a tier list, and it's every British person I've worked with and who's my favorite and why.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
You're on top. You're on top. How you doing? Thanks for coming on the show. We appreciate you being here. I know
it's a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me in. It's awesome to be here, and finally we get a chance to. We've been working together and kind of exchanging texts and stuff, but we really haven't had that sit down moment yet. You know what I mean? So we're just going to sit and have a chat while everyone else is kind of watching.
Right. It does, honestly, guys. It does feel that way because I mean, you're a busy guy. Every time you and I talk, you're on the go, and you're bouncing between film sets and getting these toppers made. I mean, you directly have your hands in like every single topper now. It's insane. And yeah, every time we talk, we got stuff to do, so we get business done, but it's always super friendly and fun. So I love that we got to set aside this time to actually sit down and just kind of hang out for an hour or so and just get to know each other better. And
yeah, I feel like I'm busy. I know that you're very busy too. Like, I mean, every time I try and get hold of you, you're like in the middle of something or or can I just call you back in 10 minutes and that 10 minutes should be 2 days? You know?
Yep. It's the brutal reality of the pinball world. But yeah, and we also, of course, have awesome. Oh yeah, people are like, "Wait, he's British. Is it 1 a.m. for Gary?" No, you're stateside.
I'm in Los Angeles, so yeah.
Yes, he's where the movies are because yeah, you find yourself on. How many? Do you have the number off the top of your head? How many film sets you've been on? I mean, that would be crazy if you did remember.
Actual film sets I've been on are ones I've actually worked on. I mean, my movie credits are about. It's about I mean, it was basically almost like 3 or 4 movies every year for like 30 years. So I mean, you know, and then there's a whole smattering of other stuff as well. Sometimes, most of the time I'm on a film, the reason I get hired is specifically producers are like, look, we want to hire you. So when we hire you, we want to get you, you know, not some of your guys. So my mantra used to be, if you hire me, you get me. I'm going to be there spraying the blood or doing the makeup or applying the thing or second unit directing. There was no kind of like handing off. So yeah, it's about 137, 140 credits, and you know, it's, you know, I kind of semi-retired a while back, but I keep getting pulled back in. It's like the mob, you know what I mean? You can't really.
Yeah.
So
Once you're in, you
I
can't
left LA for a while. I had a big workshop here, and then about 10 years ago, I left and went back to Europe, and then that all kind of went sideways. So I came back out, and as soon as I came back out, literally within days, people were like, "Oh, are you back?" You know, and I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Do you want to come and do this?" And I was like, "Okay," you know. So yeah,
so have your John Wick moment of I'm thinking I'm back.
yeah, it is very much like that. Yeah, and like him, I'm killing people. So you know, like I mean, I just spent the last month killing a whole bunch of people. So.
There you go.
Well, I do.
You get to live a lot of people's dream, to say the least. I mean, there is countless people in the world who dream of getting to do the special effects and designing. So that was actually one thing I was going to ask you. What is the primary title you like to go by? Because you're more than a special effects and makeup artist. You're also a writer, you're a director, you're a producer. You've been around, it seems like, an actor as well. You've been around like every branch of the tree in this film world. So like what is the Gary title?
I do really good craft services too.
One second, we're gonna adjust the volume. They're saying that the what needs to be adjusted, guys? Let me know.
Is it bug?
I think they're saying yours is loud.
Oh, loud. Okay. That's just me. I'm just loud.
Yeah, he just likes to yell. Okay, we're just gonna adjust it real quick. Hopefully that's better.
How's this? Does this sound okay now? Am I
Yeah.
coming less abrasive?
Less abrasive. Yeah, they're saying, yeah, Bug is quiet as ever. Gary is loud. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds about right for me. You know, most every time I go into a production meeting,
Check.
there are several producers who tend to introduce me, and I'll meet producers for the first time, and then executives who brought me in. Once I leave, they'll go, "So, what did you think of Gary? And by the way, he's not on cocaine." You think, he's not. No. You think he is, but he's not. No.
he's just that way. How's the audio levels now, guys? Is it better?
Energetic.
I think it's better. They're saying mine was super low. They're saying yours was loud. I just cranked my microphone like all the way up. Is it better if I have it at this angle? Maybe it's better at that angle. Or this angle. No, it's better here. Just checking my levels. Yes, they're saying yes. Okay, good. We're gonna get back to actually talking now.
In answer to your question, when I was growing up, I wanted to be an actor, and my dad, who's a very blue collar electrician, said, if you want to be an actor, he said you can come with me, tomorrow and act like an electrician all day long. He had no time for it, even though I was offered kind of scholarships to various drama schools, but. I come from a place in England. I come from basically the same place as Ozzy Osbourne came from. So It's a grim part of the world. And the idea of wanting to be an actor or work in the film industry is kind of like wanting to live on the moon. So it just wasn't on the cards. And what really happened was I was in a band singing, as I am known to do, and the drummer had a magazine called Fangoria, and he showed it to me, and I was like, oh my god! And I saw all these guys making monsters and doing creatures, and they were all wearing heavy metal t-shirts and had long hair like me, and I was like, that looks kind of cool. Yeah. You can do this for a job. And I literally went and got a bag of clay and started sculpting. And I remember I'd sculpted like a head in my room, and my mum came in and said, I didn't know you could sculpt. And I went, me neither.
Yeah,
so,
turns out.
And it became, I became obsessed with it. Everything got pushed to one side, and all I wanted to be was a makeup effects artist and do creatures. And I wanted to be like Rick Baker and Rob Bottin and those guys who were doing American Werewolf in London and The Thing and all that kind of stuff. And get to Los Angeles and do that. But then when I kind of got into the industry, other avenues opened up, and it afforded me the chance to do a lot of things, including directing. And then directing became, I'd read a script and go, well, this doesn't seem very good. Maybe I could do better, arrogantly thinking that, and then wrote some stuff and people were like, this is good. And then I did Dracula 2000 with Patrick Lussier, and we were doing that film. I don't know if you know that film, but Christopher Plummer plays Van Helsing in it, and they needed an audio introduction, and Christopher wasn't available, and Patrick was like, hey, you're English, you can probably do a German accent, could you just record the beginning monologue? And I think he just thought I was going to come in and be like, my name is Van Helsing, I have been tracking Dracula for many years.
Yeah.
But I'd worked with Christopher and I'd listened to him, and I learned his cadence, and I learned the whole thing as a script. And I went in, and they said, and go. And I did it like a monologue.
Oh
and gosh. Halfway through, they turned off the mic and looked at me and went, you can act. And I was like, no, you can act. And then the next film they did, they'd written a role in for somebody called Tunnicliffe. And I was like, that's really funny. You've written a role for a guy called Tunnicliffe. And they went, yeah, you're playing it. And I was like, what, really? And they're like, yeah, you're going to play the character. So that happened, and it's been great. I mean, look, I've got to travel the world. I've got to do all of the things I ever wanted to do, work on all of the things I wanted to work on. Very, very fortunate. Like, all I wanted to do when I was 17, 18 was work on a Hellraiser movie, work with Clive Barker, work in Los Angeles, and those all happened in 1 week and at one point in my life. And I thought, I'm going to die tomorrow because nobody has all this stuff happen in 1 week. But after,
especially when you're that young, how old were you at that time?
23, 24.
There you go. I mean, that's the same age that I am now. And I get that feeling all the time where, like, growing up, I was obsessed with these things. I would love to work with Rob Zombie and Alice Cooper and Bruce Campbell and, like, Halloween and all these different properties and franchises I loved in. And it's weird when you want it so bad and it just, things in your life kind of trickle you in a weird path to get exactly to those places. And it's just the weirdest thing.
Sometimes you don't react the way you think you're going to react.
Yeah.
People that I really idolized and thought I was going to freak out and didn't. And then sometimes it's been good and sometimes it's been bad. They say never meet your heroes. And I've had both experiences where it's been terrible and it's been great. And then people that you were surprised that you kind of met and were fantastic. So, So it's unusual. Sometimes you have to keep setting the bar and resetting it. Otherwise you're like, what's next? But, no, I was having a very philosophical talk with my mom one day, and she said, I worry about you sometimes. You're a bit crazy. And she said, but she said, I feel that if you died tomorrow, you've had 3 lifetimes, so I'm not so worried about it. And it's kind of true. And I've had a great existence so far. Hopefully, it doesn't go away anytime too soon. But
no, I feel the same.
And new doors open all the time. I would never have imagined being involved with yourself in a pinball situation, but it's been amazing, and it's been a great thing to get involved with and to step into this world of the pinball world and meet some great people and get to work on a franchise that I wouldn't have never got to work on because it's kind of like Sam Raimi and KMB. So, and as a huge fan of Evil Dead, I mean, as a child when Evil Dead came out. This is back in the day of video cassette recordings in England, and going and renting video cassettes. We used to have a membership card that was made of cardboard, and on the back they wrote down your rentals, and I'd worn out the Evil Dead rental. I think I'd seen it 37 times by the time I was like 11 or like 12 or 13.
Oh my gosh.
Knew it backwards, knew it inside out, knew every line of dialogue. Was really upset when Evil Dead 2 came out because I thought it was like a comedy, and whereas I thought the Evil Dead was like really serious. And then learned to love Evil Dead afterwards, Evil Dead 2 afterwards, but initially was like, oh, you turned my film into a comedy. But but love it dearly now, and love Army of Darkness and everything that's been done afterwards. So,
which is your favorite, Evil Dead 1 or 2?
I think now, I mean, I would watch Evil Dead 2 more now, but I have because now I see all of the warts on Evil Dead 1, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so amateurish, but it's so visceral, it's so raw. But as a poster, I love the original more than anything else.
Oh yeah, when you're comparing posters, even though the second one's poster is freaking awesome too in its own special way, but that first one is, I mean, it's a work of art. To say the least.
It was so original at the time. The camera angles, the way it was done, and the Samo cam and the Ramo cam and all that. You know, it was very inspiring as a filmmaker, being so young and seeing something that was so visually crazy. And it really was like a non-stop roller coaster of craziness. You know what I mean? And brutal, just brutal.
Yeah. No, I'm absolutely loving how on the same page we are on a lot of the like philosophies and life paths on this. Because like literally myself, I've shown this on stream 1,000. I don't know if I'll be able to even get it. I have the Hellraiser box tattooed on my back. Yeah, I have a gigantic. It was my first tattoo when I was 18 years old.
I have the real thing here.
Yeah, there you go. Like I'm laughing so much right now at the odd similarities in our story. Yeah. And so let's talk Hellraiser for a second, because
I have that.
Oh, and you got the modified version. I mean, when I look at your portfolio between the different IMDb and Letterboxd and everything, there's one franchise I see pop up on there the most, and that does seem to be the Hellraiser franchise. Correct me if I'm wrong, of course. So, I mean, let's back up for a second. You get to America. I assume you said you came to America and started getting into the film industry. How did you land on this Hellraiser set? How early?
No, so what happened was Hellraiser was done by a company called Image Animation. I was a huge Clive Barker fan. Read all his books, was obsessed with him. And then Hellraiser came out, and I literally sat in the theater, the Cannock Cinema, the classic Cannon Cinema in Cannock, very close to Warsaw in England. Sat there and looked up at Pinhead and went, "Who did that? How did they do it? And I want to do that." Mm-hmm. And luckily found out that it was done by a company called Image Animation and a guy called Bob Keane in England. And they were an English effects company.
Yeah, I'm a dumbass. These are all true. Yeah.
No, that's not dumb at all. You know, again, I assumed as a kid, I was like, oh, which American company did this?
Right.
So I was kind of like fledgling into makeup effects at the time. So I started doing effects and got my work to a guy called Chris Tucker, who did The Elephant Man and Phantom of the Opera. And he gave me a job, and he was a complete narcissistic asshole who, excuse the French, who is dead now. And the world's a better place for it. But he was a jerk. And I worked for him for about 5 months, never got paid. And it was a complete nightmare. And eventually I walked out because I was working 7 days a week, never got any money, was living at his house, and it was a mansion. He had tons and tons of money, but never gave any to his workers. And eventually I walked out and went home, and I called Image Animation. And luckily Bob Keane actually answered the phone. And he said, I said, I'm trying to get a job with you. And he said, well, what are you doing right now? And I said, I was hoping to get a work with you. And he said, well, where have you worked? And I said, I just worked for Chris Tucker. And he said, how long were you there? And I said, 4 months. And he said, you can start Monday. And I said, really? And he went, yeah. Anyone who can last 4 months with Chris Tucker can start with me any day of the week.
There you go.
So I went, and they just finished Hellraiser 2. They just completed Hellraiser 2. All the stuff was there. And the dream was, hopefully, could I ever get to work on a Hellraiser project? And then luckily about a year later, Hellraiser 3 came through the door. And I was asked to my job was to make all the boxes. So I started making all the boxes. And then during that filming, as we went along, some of my abilities kind of showed themselves, and I ended up being a workshop supervisor on that.
Oh my God.
So workshop supervised it. Then we did reshoots, and I came out to Los Angeles, and that's where I met Clive for the first time and applied Pinhead, or helped apply Pinhead. And then set up a shop in Los Angeles with Bob. And they were just about to do Hellraiser 4 Bloodline. And Bob was like, I don't want to ever do any Hellraisers ever again. But you love this stuff, right? And I was like, yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
So he's like, right, it's yours. Go ahead, take over. And that's when I started designing all the Cenobites and playing Pinhead and doing everything on all the Hellraiser films. And that lasted all the way through till 10, Hellraiser Judgment. And I was prop maker, making the Cenobite costumes, story ideas, trying eagerly and desperately to hope that we would make a good Hellraiser every time, and believing that it would be a good Hellraiser, and being let down a lot, but always with the please, I hope it's going to be decent, obviously never going to be as good as the first two because they're just immaculate. And 3, although I worked on it as my first film, I hate 3. I think it's terrible. But
oh, really? I think 3 is still fun. It's not 1 and 2, I guess, but I mean, it's still a fun
different kind of film.
Yeah, it's very different. It
and it's not the Hellraiser it could have been because Tony Randall, who directed Part 2, was supposed to direct Part 3, and kind of got fired because of a disagreement with the producers. But I recently had to do a kind of talk with Hellraiser 3, and it hasn't aged well. It's a little camp. God bless Tony Higgox, who recently passed away, who directed that, and I worked with Tony a few times, but it's a bit stilted. It hasn't held it well, so it's not my favorite of the Hellraiser sequels. But I had a great time doing the Hellraiser films and felt very fortunate to be involved with as many as I was, and and finally got to direct one. So that was a big thing for me to direct a Hellraiser film and also play a character in a Hellraiser film. So. And I've been accused of being very arrogant for doing that. Like, how dare you put yourself in a Hellraiser film? But I'm like, well, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Who doesn't want to be?
Yeah. I am a dick. So, yeah, I'm going to put me in it, I apologize, but, not, sorry, not sorry.
That's one of the things in the horror world that I've always really loved, though, is that people attached to the certain franchises, like Saw, for example, production designers becoming directors, because these people, they stick with the films. They know it better than anybody because they've worked on and you see them in this trajectory up to getting more and more roles in that franchise and being trusted with it by those the people behind that. And I've always found that just really incredible about that industry in general. And I just think it's great that you got to be a part of it.
Sometimes if you're enthusiastic, it's a little bit of a detriment because the producers now they can get you no matter what. So like the movies, there were several times when they were like, look, it's going to be made for this kind of a budget. And I should have. And, on Hellraiser 5, the money I was offered was insane. It was so low. And I'd just come off doing, I think I'd just done Sleepy Hollow and Blade. And the money they offered for Hellraiser Inferno was absolutely nothing. In fact, I remember doing the budget and walking out of the shop and saying to my girlfriend who I ran the shop with at the time, saying, so I've done the budget, you're going to get paid, the crew are going to get paid, but I won't get paid on this. And she was like, well, why are you doing it? And I went, because I love Hellraiser,
yeah.
And she's like, well, they know that. That's why they can get away with it. They screw you to the boards because they know that you love it so much and you wouldn't want anyone else to do it. And I said, yeah, well, unfortunately, that's the case. So, but even on the stuff that I did that was low budget, hopefully the effects always look decent and people always recognize that there was passion behind it. So
that's incredible. There's one particular, we literally cannot go through every single one of your movies and be like, so what'd you do in this one? Because we'll be here for 10 hours because there's so many of them. There's one specific one I have to ask the question about because it's my girlfriend's all-time favorite movie. And it's Ginger Snaps, and I was looking through what was the involvement in Ginger Snaps.
My involvement in Ginger Snaps is minuscule, unfortunately. So it's tiny. Somebody I worked with the image animation back in England, Paul Jones, actually was the effects designer on that. Mm-hmm. And all it was on that particular film. That's again, you picked one of those films that I have a dubious link to, not a lengthy link to. And that was that I was up in Canada working for Paul, actually. He'd come down and work for me a little bit in LA. And he was like, why don't you come to Toronto and work for me? And I went up and I was working on a project. And he said, I'm doing this thing called Ginger Snaps. And he told me at the script, which sounded very unique and very original at the time. Mm-hmm. And all I did on that was I sculpted a couple of the makeups for her early stages with the kind of teardrop eyes. But the werewolf itself, the six-breasted female blonde werewolf, was being sculpted by Paul and a guy called Sean Harrison from England at the time, and they were all working busily on that. So I didn't apply anything. I literally did a little bit of sculpting, tiny bit of sculpting. So you picked one movie that I have a very tenuous link to. So I feel I should be completely honest about that my link to Ginger Snaps is very minuscule.
Any minuscule link to Ginger Snaps is enough for her to scream when she sees this interview later.
Oh,
she's doing a ghost tour right now, so she's not watching. But
I think there are probably 2 or 3 films on my entire resume that you could pick out where I did very little, and that's probably one of the biggest.
I found it.
I'm sure Paul, if you saw my resume, like, it's on there. Really, you have Ginger Snaps on your resume? I'm like, yeah, well, I barely did anything, but it's on there.
Awesome. So before we jump into like more of the film stuff, because I still have so many things I want to get to here. I want to talk about, this is a pinball show. Let's rope it back there for a second here and talk about how the process looked like on Evil Dead. So my friend Jason Egan, who runs escape rooms in Las Vegas and has his hands in a ton of other pots, by the way. Every time I talk to him, I swear I find out about more that he does. And we were talking about toppers. I was talking about how I really wanted to do an aftermarket topper in Evil Dead where it looks like Cheryl's coming out of the game. And he was like, oh, absolutely. We have a guy that can definitely do this. We'll start mocking you up some designs and send it over to you. And I don't even know if he mentioned like the name of you at that time quite yet, but he sent over the design and I kind of shared some of the ideas we had. And then I'll admit the memories from there of the rest of the process start getting a little hazy for me because it was just getting really cool sculpts like of the clays and whatnot of the original drafts of it. And every time me just being like, yep, that's perfect. I have no notes. Continue. So, I mean, yeah, let's tell me a little bit about what was it like when Jason brought that to you and designing the Cheryl topper, which is the most famous pinball topper ever at this point.
Which is amazing. Which is crazy, right? It's
it's freaking awesome.
Nuts, yeah. So, I've known Jason for a long time. Jason used to run a thing called Fright Dome in Las Vegas, which is one of the top Halloween attractions in America. And we met after I did a film called The Collector. So he was doing a collector maze, and he came to my shop and said, would you come and look over the maze, and would you be a guest? And also, would you maybe do some masks for us? And we became friends after that. And I started, basically, I would come and design. I ended up designing a whole bunch of mazes and dressing stuff for him. And then it's grown into a relationship now where Jason calls me on an every couple of day basis with bizarre requests, Can you make a bunny rabbit crawl across the table and its head explode? Or could you make a this, this, and this? And it's like, yeah, I can do that. I can't do that. Yeah, I can do that. And I know he loves pinball. He loves pinball. There's many pinball machines. He's a bit of a pinball nut. And he mentioned the whole situation. And I think originally, what I'd kind of come across was, we've got this idea for Cheryl coming out of the cellar, and everyone's like, it could never be done, right? And I was like, no, it could be done, and everyone, I think you and Jason were a bit like, really? It can be done. I was like, yeah. Yeah. And the thing it's important from my end is you can't let the concept get, it's like you can say anything out loud or on paper, but it's like the reality is, will it work, and can it be manufactured, and can it be done is the second thing. And then can it be turned into a production line and still manageable and work within a budget? Because obviously
that's the toughest one there. That last note is, anything can look really cool like that once. Can you do 800 of these?
Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, we've made this thing. Oh, I'd love one. It's $10,000. Okay, I'm out. It's like, so it's like, can it be made and can it be functioning? And what was key was, he's thinking backwards about the mechanism in that, it needs to look like Cheryl's coming out of it. Whereas the truth is, it's not Cheryl coming out of it. It's the lid opening and it's pulling Cheryl's head out. Mm-hmm. So you get the effect of, Cheryl's kind of like rising up, and it's lifting it. And with the hand attached, you get this kind of lurching effect. And I knew that the mechanism would be fairly simple. It was a case of, again, having done haunt attraction pieces, I knew the mechanism would be fairly simple to fit into the back of the area. So then it was just a question of an idea I had for the chain traveling through the hand. so it would look like the hand was holding the chain, but it's not really holding
Yeah.
it, so the chain will travel through the hand.
I do have to curse you for that design just a little bit, because the amount of jokes I have to hear a day about these hands sitting around like this.
Oh, of course. No,
you know they're endless.
to my world, like I mean, you're on a film set with a dead body, and you have a dead head with, like, there's a girl behind with her mouth open, like, and the times I'm on set with severed heads, and people are like, oh, but hey man, I bet you had fun with that head, gonna kill you. Yeah. We have sex with fake heads on set. That's what we do all the time.
It's the age-old joke.
People come up with dumb stuff, and I'm sure you've had guys holding the hands, going, "Hey, look at this, man!"
Yeah, you know it. You know how. Yeah,
it's one of those things. Yeah, anytime people think they're hilarious, or with fake heads, you get people sunglasses put them, they'll be like, "Hey, man, look, look, it's wearing glasses, man." Or hold a cigarette in its mouth, and you're like, "Yeah." I haven't seen that.
I won't lie. I fall sucker for the glasses one all the time. I kind of still think it's funny.
Everyone does it. It's like, after 30 plus years of it, you tend to get a bit, like I used to have a T-shirt, a company T-shirt, and on the back it said, "No, I don't have nightmares. Yes, I have fun at Halloween." Because the questions they used to get asked on set were all done like, "Hey man, I bet you have fun at Halloween." It's like, "Hey man, do you have nightmares?" So I had T-shirts that said, "Please don't ask me if I have fun at Halloween."
Yeah.
Do I have nightmares? Yeah. Was I a weird kid?
What happened to you as a child? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. So when you tell people you were completely normal, they're always very disappointed, but they want to hear some kind of story. But
I do.
But yeah, with the and it was like also weight issues. Like, how do you make something look like it has a lot of weight? Like the lid, the cellar floor, which needs to look like old, worn, heavy wood, but it's still light enough to be able to, to lift up and move and not tax a motor too much.
Yeah.
And also paint work as well. It's like, well, can it be manufactured? Is the paint job simple enough? Is the mold process simple enough? It can be replicated and maintain the quality of pieces. And that all has to be thought about. So I knew straight away with the Evil Dead piece that we could get it. We could do that. We could do that. But then what was amazing, and it was one of those things where I'm sure you get this, is where you feel like you've bought someone a really beautiful Christmas present, and it's February, and they're going to open it in December, but you're like, oh, I can't wait for people to open it. I can't wait. They're all going to freak out. Because when I really mocked it up and had it moving, and I'd show people on my phone, they'd be like, what is that? And I'd be like, that's going to go on top of a pinball machine. And they go, what?
Yeah.
On a pinball machine? I'd be like, yeah, right.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like the people who are on the inside and our side, who maybe aren't even involved in the game design process, but they're like on the production line, and they're all under NDA and know everything. And you take it to them, and you're like, "Hey, what do you think of this?" And they're like, "What is that gonna be for?" And you're like, "Yeah, we know, like we know this is good." So
let's be plug. We've already wrapped our presents for this Christmas, haven't we? So we already.
So that was
excited and waiting now. We can't say anything, but.
I said we can't say anything. What we will say, I was going to ask you this. Do you like the next one more? Because I do. I like the next one. I find it mesmerizing. I just could sit and stare at it forever. I love it.
What I loved most about the new one is that when we'd done this one and the Evil Dead, and everyone was like, and watching the reaction videos online of people seeing the spooky pinball Evil Dead reaction videos, and people going, "Have you seen this, Topper?" And you were very like, "Hey man, I really love the Evil Dead one. I know it's going to be tricky to beat that one." And then you pitched the idea for what we were going to do for the next one. And once I built it and had it in the shop and looked at it, it was one of those moments where you go, "Yeah, this is pretty amazing, right?"
Yeah.
But I can't wait for them to see this. And then I remember with such warm glow you calling me and going, "Gary," and I was like, "Hey, bug," and you're like, "So I've just been staring at this thing for like an hour, and I'm freaking out. I didn't think you could make a better one, but this is better." And I'm like, "Really?" And you're like, "Yeah, it's amazing."
Yeah, I mean because there's a lot invested into doing these and whatnot, and through the photos, of course, it looks so good in the photos and everything, but until it's in my hands, sitting in front of me, I can see it on top of a game, how it's all going to really look together. There's still always that up in the air of like, is it going to work? Is it going to be what we wanted? Was this the right choice? everything. And I got it pulled out. I was practically holding my breath, unpackaging the most well-packaged thing ever. My God, I think it took me 20 minutes to cut all the layers of foam and wrap
I'm
thing off.
terrified of these things getting damaged. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you did a good job. It's a good thing. And I got it all set up together and everything. And I was just sitting there staring at it. And I just felt like a knot undo in my chest. And I could just breathe again like, oh, it's better. We're okay. Like, we're going to be fine. We're going to do it again. We're going to do it again.
I'm very excited to see what people will say when you unveil. You know, I'm very excited.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you too. You should all be very excited.
Yeah. And everybody in the chat is incredibly excited to see what it's going to be. There's no doubt about it. And on top of that, we're already working on the one after that too.
And so, I'm working on the one after that as well now.
Yeah, we're gonna keep doing this. I mean, crap. I love that this is becoming something that our company is going to be known for. It's becoming a part of the brand of Spooky Pinball, and I just absolutely love that. As well as I love your ride or die attitude and mentality. Once we got you on board with everything, to where we briefly talked about other pinball companies, and we won't bring up names or anything, where you're like, yeah, I saw that kind of looks like a load of crap, we're gonna do way better than that. And I was just like, I love when you bring someone in and they got that attitude and they're on your team right away.
Well, I'll be honest.
I felt like we were in good hands immediately with that. I was like, he's on our side. Like, that's great.
I'm not a pinball player. I'm terrible at pinball. I am lousy at it. Although I'm getting way better now. And you know, and I didn't realize you could catch the ball with a flipper. Like, that's the common thing, is that hold the
cradling,
like a kind of guy, you know.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, oh, you can actually do this. But so I immediately went and made a trip to Revenge of in Los Angeles, and kind of hung out there and played all the machines. So I didn't know that toppers, and then I'd look at it and go, no, that's a topper. That's a topper, and we've done it. Like, oh, well, yeah.
Wait till you find out how much they charge for them too.
Really? Wow.
Oh yeah, we're competitive in our pricing for sure. So I'll be honest, because I don't always get to see in person all the new stuff that comes out from the other companies, just because of where we're at. And you know, when I do go to locations and whatnot and check out the games, it's usually kind of the more bare bones, stripped down version. And I was at a show and I saw some of the other, you know, $2,000 toppers that are out there, and it was before ours came out, and I was nervous about ours, and like, just because you never know how anything's going to do. I thought it was amazing, but I was like, I hope people like it. And when I saw the other toppers for the prices that they were and the size they were and what they did, I was like, no, we're fine. Like, I feel totally relieved. I am more than confident in what we have. And yeah.
I'm kind of waiting for that moment where I see one and go, okay, wow, okay, well, well, I've really got out of my game, you know. Like, but for now, I'm like, you know, like, I think we're leading the way a little bit. Like, you know, I'm not being a dick or anything, but everything I've seen so far, I'm a little bit like, yeah. So kudos to Spooky Pinball for wanting to raise the game, you know.
Yeah, no, I love that this has become a part of it. I absolutely love it.
But it's only the frosting on what is a great game. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
Your game fields are incredible, you know, and there's so much going on. Like, I think the hand is just insane, and the cellar piece is just tremendous, you know. So it's like you guys invest so much into the story of the film that you can feel that, you know, it's not just like someone who's done clip notes. It's like, oh, you really understand the film, and like, that's why I think I said to you, I was like, hey, is there any of the spare artwork? You know, like, I just want to hang it on the office wall, you know, like I just saw on your site the dust cover, and I was like, yeah, I want the dust cover so I can pin it on my wall. You know?
Yeah, I gotta introduce you to our artist Christopher Franchi sometime. You guys would love each other. He's
amazing
insane talent. But speaking about like the process of the topper, I believe you had some like pieces you could share, kind of from the various stages of completion on the topper that I think these guys would get a kick out of seeing.
It's not a lot of stuff, unfortunately, because we're kind of like, we're mid-run through stuff, but but like, I can show you like on a head. So all the molds we do they're silicon pieces with fiberglass jackets, and they go into rotocasters. So we have to put into a rotocasting machine, which has resin sluiced around inside it to give it thickness, and then we fill those with foam. So what comes out is a piece like this for Cheryl,
I love those. I love the white pieces. They're so cool.
Her head sits against the angle of that, and that whole had to be figured out. But it's not a full head; it's only half a head. Mm-hmm. And then after this, we do there's quite an elaborate paint scheme. We do a wash of like a dark color, and then a spatter of some different light colors, and then from that, we sit down and we airbrush them. So we end up doing this kind of thing. So the whole thing gets that kind of like, kind of
gosh.
And again, what was really key for us was trying to really match Tom Sullivan's makeup that he'd done on Cheryl for the first film, which has some funny things to it. So it's like probably people don't notice it, but like when I paint Cheryl, I have to give her kind of a pink nose. She has a bit of a pink kind of hue to her nose on the side, and it's where the makeup had rubbed off.
Oh yes.
You can see areas where makeup's it's rubbed away. She's probably freezing cold in that cabin, during the months of October, and she's probably just wiping her nose all the time, so it all rubs off. But it becomes part of the nature of the makeup, and even like when we were sculpting it, you're trying to manufacture something that's actually a pretty shoddy makeup, but it's the rawness of it that makes it so scary. Mm-hmm. So even when we did the hands, like we actually, all I did was for the hands was I dunked my hands in latex and then let it all stretch and come off, and then molded my hands in the various positions, because that's what they'd done with the actors. They just done latex on them and kind of peeled it and pulled it away. So we were trying to mimic this kind of bad, I would say bad makeup. I don't want to give Tom Sullivan a hard time, because that guy did miracles on no money and created iconic looking makeups. And it's amazing that a very simple thing of like, black eyes and kind of a little bit of red and then a blue becomes so visceral and scary, really, because of the way that she's performing it. And, I think to me that scene in the cellar was always the most terrifying scene anyway. Yeah. So that's why we kind of gravitated to it straight away, was because I had such a love for that scene. Even just the things she's saying, I think, are so funny. When she's like, I'm all right now, Ash. I'm gonna lock you in the cellar. It's just so funny. She's such a maniacal demon. But it was hard finding images that match, because I don't know if you know, in that scene, I think 3 or 4 people played Cheryl at different times. Sam's famous for using what he calls shemps, and having people in a mask or in a wig, so the hair changes. 1 minute it's very frizzy, it's a grey wig. 1 minute it's the actor who's got kind of red hair. So we were trying to really achieve the essence of what the character looked like more than anything else, and the feel of it. Which I think,
that's all the more reason that if every topper doesn't turn out the same, it just makes it more theme appropriate.
Yeah. There you go.
These are the Shemp toppers.
And it's helped us in certain ways, like even with castings, and maybe the castings aren't 100% like, pristine. It's like, oh, well, that's just part of, that becomes a wound, because of skin, or, a bit of demon damage, or sort of Kandarian demon damage, you know what I mean? So, but it's very fun to walk into a shop sometimes when it's not fun to do it, because we have a bit of I'm sure you have the same kind of nightmare sometimes. Do you have this in your world of manufacturing, where you have a big box of parts and you're kind of working through them on each machine, and it just never seems to end? You're like, how many pieces are in here? And
my life is a sequence of games on a line that just never seem to end. You come in and look down, and you're just like, there's more of these? I can't believe there's more.
That's how I am with, if I just take in the shop now, there's just like, hands lined up in a row, and you're literally sitting there painting one hand, just put it down, paint the next hand, and I have colors lined up. But some days I look at them and be like, did someone come in and like put more hands in without me knowing, it's scary to get to the end of 100 pieces and go, wow, when I started the 100, I didn't think I was going to get to the end of it. It's like looking at a mountain you're about to hike up and go, we'll never get to the top of that hill. Yeah. And then you call up and say, we need another 150, Garrett.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Like, so good news and bad news. Good news is we are selling the pants off of these things. Bad news is you're going to be seeing Cheryl with your eyes closed.
It is a weird thing sometimes, because there are times when you think, you do kind of think, you're painting away and you're like, oh, I've got 20 more of these, and maybe you're about to put a piece down and you think, no, this is going in someone's house, and this is going on someone, someone's going to play this and look at it, so you want it to be as good as it can be. So there are times when you spend a little extra time sometimes, and there are some of them probably that have probably got little extra flourishes on them where I've had like a moment of like, I've just spent a little bit too long on them or something, and so I've always toyed with the idea of signing them on the back at times, doing a secret mark or something. But
I like that you mentioned that, though, that you think about that, because I get that too every day. Because I mean, when I'm going through all the games that I'm clearing in the production line, I mean, you're doing a game after a game after a game, and you start to lose track that these are individual households games until I look down at the front of the game and I fold up the build slip and I read the person's name, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be Ted's game. All right, let's see, like let's make sure Ted's is going, his VUK works extra good. Because it's, like you said, it's exactly what you said. You're on the next one, you're like, oh, and then you're like, oh wait, this is like a staple item. This is incredibly important, and you add that extra little bit of flair here and there for them, and I love that you get that.
Well, while it's number 296 for you, it's number 1 for them. So,
exactly. It's the one.
Everyone you do is like, it's number 1 for them. So even with my crew, sometimes they're working on things, and I'm like, hey, no, that needs a little bit more on that. Like, this is somebody's piece of art. They're going to go on their wall, and let's make sure it's cool. Like I say, even a silly thing like on the boards, going in with a chrome pen and painting all the chrome nails. Is like
yeah.
It's just an important thing to do, right?
The little details, and I love the flourishes of like the differences in blood and certain features in the faces.
The thing's a weird thing that's happened, because initially when I started doing it, I would put the blood on and let it drip. And now I've got this technique where I do the blood, where I kind of, I put the blood on the mouth, and then I grab them by the ears upside down, and I kind of flick them.
Really?
When you do that, you get this amazing kind of like, how do you see? You get these weird little tendrils of blood that occur.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Every time. Sometimes it reminds me of King Diamond. I don't know if you know King Diamond is.
Yeah. It looks like, oh my gosh. Oh, now I'm going to see that every time I look at it.
I feel exactly. So it's weird to see this kind of organic patterning you get on the blood sometimes when I do the Tunnicliffe flick. When I do that, every time I put the blood on them, and it's always a bit of fun to turn over and be like, oh wow, that's really kind of cool, or like I need some of the dribble, So
freaking fantastic. Chat, feel free to throw your questions in as well for Gary. I mean, guys, go look at his portfolio, pick a movie, and throw it in there and ask, like, hey, what did you do on this? I love that. I would love to know, because, I mean, I could sit here and go through them all. In fact, I'm going to just randomly pick one. We're going to do that. We're going to see.
Hopefully it's a movie that I worked on more than...
You watch. You said there was like 3 that you didn't do much on. I'm going to find the next one. Okay, here's one. This one pops up like first on Letterboxd because I imagine it has the most views. You obviously have a lot of horror movies.
Yes.
Here's a non-horror movie, Gone Girl. What was the deal with Gone Girl?
See, I love when people ask me about Gone Girl. They're like, "You worked on Gone Girl?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "What did you do?" And I go, "Oh, Gone Girl." And I go, "Yeah, I only did one scene on Gone Girl." They go, "Yeah, but that was a crazy scene."
Yeah.
So,
oh my gosh. Yeah, that is.
That was 2 insane days. I mean, a lot of prep. David is incredibly specific, and that was an insane scene that we did. I did 2 days of rehearsals for, and 27 versions of the blood rig I made for it.
Really?
Tested and sent David each one, and he would comment on every one. We discussed viscosity of blood, color of blood, everything. And then when we filmed it, we actually did it, I think we did 19 times. And the key issue on that was obviously it couldn't stain. The blood could not stain because we literally had to shoot with Rosamund and Neil, as fast as we could. So the whole set was like a jigsaw piece that would come apart. And all of the mattresses and the bed stands and everything, every time we did a take, they were all taken out and they were stored in a whole soundstage. So by the end of the day, we had 19 sets of all the linens, all the pillows, all of the side tables, the lamps, everything were all laid out. So in case of whichever take they wanted to use, they could go back to and use that particular thing. But it was an insane day. We did all of the kind of like all the kind of like making love stuff up until the point, and then David just was like, okay, now we do the wet work.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. I mean, funny things about that, like anytime Neil's bleeding, I mean, he's got a tube running up behind his leg, through his underwear and up his back and through his neck. And he joked at one point during the day, he's like, nobody's ever had their hand in my underwear as much as this. You know, people I'm very intimate with, you know, and Rosamund, I'll never forget Rosamund on set, in a very, very beautiful British accent saying, Gary, my butt cheeks are sticking together. you know, so you have to go in there with a spritzer and spray her butt with water, because the blood gets sticky as it gets, sometimes, so it would stick her butt cheeks together. So yeah, it was an insane few days.
You get pretty comfortable with everybody working on scenes like that. I mean,
when you're doing a love scene and a very bloody scene.
Yeah.
And what was really tricky about that was they'd shot the end of the film where Rosamund gets home to Ben and she's covered in blood, the final sequence. So we had to match. The blood had to match to that clip.
Oh, yeah.
Weeks and weeks and weeks later. So I remember there was a sequence where David wanted blood to kind of like pour out of Neil's neck and hit Rosamund here. And he said, look, so it has to go all over her, but it cannot go in her hair, because when we shot her, she had no blood in her hair. So he's like, can you?
Wow.
And I said, yeah. And he said, well, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to puppeteer Neil. So literally, I held Neil and I just said, you go relaxed with me and I'm going to maneuver you. And as I sprayed the blood, I kind of moved. And there was a great shot where the blood just goes straight across their neck and chest.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, and it was great. I mean, David's known for being very stoic and very kind of like, very, very focused. I mean, it's definitely one of the quietest film sets I've ever been on. It's like a library. You only tend to hear one voice.
Really?
Yeah, very, very quiet. And at the end of the day, we'd finished everything, or the second day, and I think I was leaving, and I think I kind of notioned to David and said, well, bye. And he just walked over and he said, you were really good. You were really good. And I walked out, and Kate Bisco, who's the head of makeup on that, she just said, David doesn't say that.
That's great.
That was my Oscar, I thought. To have that, it was wonderful.
Yeah.
And then what was really nice was about 6 or 7 months later, or maybe a year later, they had the cast and crew screening, and it was the DGA building in Los Angeles. And it's always great to see a screening of a film like that, because it's very loud and it's the beautiful picture quality, because it's at the Directors Guild building. So it's all the cast and crew, and probably they brought their wives or something with them, or their girlfriends, or better halves. And but it's a very quiet audience. It's not like going to an AMC where people are eating popcorn and munching.
Right, yeah.
You'll never see a more quiet.
That sounds like my dream.
than a cast and crew of a David Fincher movie. And so it's complete silence, the entire movie. Complete silence until the net cut.
Yeah.
And then one female voice. I remember one female voice of clearly someone's wife or girlfriend lost it. And all I heard from about 5 rows behind me was, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I was like, yeah. Yeah.
And that was the second Oscar.
And then David approached me afterwards, and I said, "Hey, thank you for the opportunity. It worked out great." And he said, "What a fantastic blend of CGI and makeup effects." He said, "We managed to pull off there." And because again, it was the real thing was, can we turn it around? And we had it so that I'd made a special blood that was very wardrobe and skin friendly, and we had a mechanical process, very military style, where as soon as we would finish a take, I would run in and disconnect them, and then we would have. Rosamund and Neil would go straight off set and plunge their hands into 2 buckets of water to get the blood off their hands, which is where you always tend to get pinking. And then they would go and get showers, and then they would go to makeup and hair and get their hair dried and makeup reapplied. And I think we had it down, or they had it down to like 45 minutes, which is crazy. And the wardrobe department and the makeup department were very kind to me and said, your blood doesn't stain at all. In fact, the only thing that stained was the wardrobe department said, it stains the elastic on the panties and on the bra. That's all. It goes slightly pink, but everything else fantastic, because she's wearing white underwear. And David had actually said, what color underwear should you wear? And I went, oh, white.
Yeah.
Nothing was better than white underwear. Everything should be white. And the only worry I had on that was when we did the first take, and so the blood comes running out. And David had been very specific at blood color, saying, I want it dark. I want dark blood, like pig's blood, like really dark. So we tested various colors, and he signed off on the color. And after the first take, he looked at me and went, I think the blood's too dark. And I'd mixed up like 70 gallons of this stuff.
Yeah, no shit.
And I was like, really? And he went, yeah. And I went, look at the bed. And he looked at the bed, and the bed was beautifully red and dirty, like, and he went, oh, it's fantastic. He said, it's perfect. I said, it's just dark when it's thick, which I think is very effective, so, because I hate blood that looks like cherry syrup. So luckily he was okay after that.
One question I want to hit real quick before I'm going to take a couple of questions from the chat. You mentioned Fincher being very specific about blood color. That seems to be a trend I've noticed, that certain directors are just hyper specific about blood color. Like Tarantino is very famous for that as well. Is he the most like hyper specific about blood color? Who else in the career was like insanely particular about what blood was going to look like with you?
I think only, again, I didn't work on the film, but I supplied blood for them, and that was Ben Affleck. After I'd done Gone Girl, he said, I want the guy who did that blood to make the blood for Live by Night. So I made the blood for him for that.
Okay.
But
so you're also a blood guy. You're a blood supplier.
Oh.
you donate blood regularly. It's
yeah, I do. Yeah. Yeah, I have a weird. So when we did going back to Dracula 2000, I'd obviously done Hellraiser films, and I always made my own blood. Mm-hmm. But there's a thing within the industry we call having pink hands. When you get blood in your hands go pink, and I hate having pink hands. So I started making my own blood, and people would use it on sets. So for continuity, there's nothing worse than other departments using different color blood. So I would give blood to people like props department and wardrobe.
Great.
And a props guy used some of my blood, and this was years and years and years ago. And he said, hey, I'm doing this little show, like a pilot for a medical show. And I used your blood. He said, and the medical supervisor on the film, the medical consultant, said your blood was the most realistic fake blood he'd ever seen. And we want to use it on the, if it goes ahead, the show, we want to use your blood. And I was like, okay. And I said, what's your show called? And it's called CSI or something like that. So, yeah, I ended up making a lot of fake blood for CSI.
Yeah, I probably...
And then
there's not many shows that probably used more blood than CSI.
Yeah. So I became known as the Blood Man, and it became... I started making it again now, because so often I work on a film and I'll tell especially the wardrobe department, because they, bless them, they never believe me. I'm like, my blood doesn't stain. And they're like, yeah, of course. Yeah, it doesn't stain. Yeah, right. Yeah. And I'm like, really? And they're like, yeah, of course, yeah. And then usually about 3 days after a film, some wardrobe person will come and hug me and be like, your blood doesn't stain. And I'll be like, so yeah, I'm fanatical about blood. I hate cherry-looking blood or fake-looking blood, So, but no, I mean, the only person who's been maniacal about the color of blood is me and David Fincher. But David is not maniacal, but he's very specific about every detail.
Pretty much everything, yeah.
Absolutely.
He's one of my favorite directors, hands down.
And
absolutely
so he's incredible, but he's also extremely intimidating, and
I bet
everything. And you do not bullshit that man at all, or even try. You woe betide you if you try and bullshit that man.
So, question from the chat from J&M. They would like to know, what is your all-time favorite horror movie? Worked on, not worked on. What's the go-to? What's the favorite horror movie of Gary?
That's a tricky one, I think, because it always comes down to like that you would rewatch it or that you were horrified by.
Right.
I mean, people have often asked me and said, and it's actually very pertinent at the moment. So there were probably 3 movies that I would always talk about when asked this question. One is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And it's not a film I watch, because it's a brutal excursion in terror, especially the last 20 minutes. There is something just raw about that film that just it's a hard watch, and it's iconic. And I think it's almost an accident that they made it that it became that well. I think everything from the name of it to just the iconography of it to the look of Leatherface, and just the tone of it is so bleak. It's such a bleak film, especially, and that's the end of. By the end of that movie, you just want Marilyn Burns to stop screaming. Stop screaming, and it's dark.
Time to take a shower. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you gotten the chance to play our game, Texas Chainsaw?
I haven't. No, I've heard about it.
Oh my gosh, it's my favorite game we've ever made. I actually like it even more than Evil. It's my hands down favorite game we've done.
There you go, right?
Yeah,
so
play it.
I'll look forward to it.
Yeah.
So that, and then I always talk about The Exorcist, because to me, The Exorcist is a film that changes as you get older. When you see it when you're 18, 19, you're all about a girl's head spinning around and vomiting and swearing and all that, you know. And it's like it's that stuff that affects you. And then as you get older, it changes with you. It just it's dark, and it's the medical stuff in it when she's being tested is very powerful, and has, because you know, as you get older, you get paranoid about getting ill and sick.
Yeah.
But I worked on a prequel to Exorcist with Rennie Harlin.
Yeah, I was going to mention that.
And when we did the film, it was all kind of leading up to the exorcism sequence. And Rennie Harlin, they finally got the pages, and I was very friendly with Rennie at this point, and he kind of saw me as kind of a you know, like, I don't know, as like a, you know, a kind of consultant as well of horror. So we were waiting for the final kind of pages for the exorcism, and he gave it to me, and he said, "Hey, here it is. Read it. Tell me what you think." And I read it, and he said, "So, what do you think?" And I was like, you know. And he's like, "Well, what?" And I said, "Rennie," I said, "in 1972, there was a girl stabbing herself in the vagina with a crucifix, saying, 'Let Jesus,' you know what I mean?"
Yeah.
I said, "That's insane." I said, "That scene now is hardcore, man."
Still,
He grabs her mother's head and says, "Lick me." You know what I mean? I said, that's a powerful, powerful scene. And what you've got written now is some girl crawling up walls, swearing and saying, you know, some filthy stuff. It's not filthy, but compared to that, and he was like, "Oh, well, if you think you can do better, why don't you write something?" And I remember going home that night, and I actually did write something. And I sent it to him the next day. And I called him, and I said, "Did you read what I said?" He went, "Yeah, I read it." And I said, "What do you think?" He went, "If I shoot that, they'll arrest me." And I went, "But that's what should happen."
That's kind of, yeah.
But that's what it needs to be, Rennie. I said, "It needs to be." He's like, no. I say, "If I shoot that, they'll lock me up." And I was like, "Well," I said, "I think, you know, Friedkin was traversing that line when they did the original." I said, "You have to think about it like Blatty was thinking about it, which is, what would the devil do? How would the devil, you know, what would he do?" And the truth is, nothing was off the table. And that's why even now, and the way that Reagan is introduced in that film is so dark and so matter of fact. Mm-hmm. That first thing, you can just hear upstairs, and when Karis goes in, you know, it's terrifying, but it's also playful. Like when she opens the drawer, and he's like, "Do that again," and she's like, "Later, you know, another time, maybe later." You know, she's to me, it's great, and it's anchored by such brilliant, realistic performances by Sidow and by by Jason as well. It's got this great real feel to it. But the third film, and I always just go, this is the ultimate horror film, is Jaws. And they go, "Well, no, it's not really." And I go, "Well, it is, because here's the deal: watch it, and then come with me to the beach,
right,
and then go in the water." And it's like they're like, "Ah," and I'm like,
"Yeah, it changes you."
Then it's a horror film that wins, right? Because it's like, when I go, you know, when you watch Exorcist, you're not really scared about being possessed, and when it's this Chainsaw Massacre, you're not really scared about being attacked by a guy with a chainsaw. But when you watch Jaws, and when you're out, and I scuba dive, you know, and when you're in deep water and it's 70, you know, it's black and it's like 200 feet below you, and someone goes, "No, dum 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 dum," you're like, "Shut up, dude, shut up."
It's
like,
funny you mentioned it.
You know,
I was just on a catfishing trip this weekend with one of my coworkers and some of our friends, and we would just turn on the TV in the cabin, and Jaws was playing on TV, and I was like, "Well, this is pretty perfect for like we're fishing right now." And it was playing the scene of Quint sitting there eating the cracker, and the line goes, and he's focusing in on it, and it gets pulled, and he starts hooking up to it, and all of us were just locked in watching it, like, this is exactly how we feel. Like when we're out there, the whole day, the next day, we'd be sitting there watching our lines off the boat, and somebody would just randomly start going, tick, tick, tick. It's like it just stuck with us so much. It's one of my favorite
what I will
movies.
say about Jaws is what's very strange is it's especially this year with having people talk about it so loftily, and I do. I have a poster of Jaws in the room. It's incredibly inspirational. I love sharks. I dope with sharks. The reason I got into scuba diving was because of sharks and because of Jaws. But I will say this: the film itself is a Frankenstein. It is a completely manufactured in the edit movie. If you go and ever sit, you have the ability to watch it with a filmmaker, and I implore you to do it, is when you realize that the film is completely put together in the edit room, and it's a miracle that it's as good as it is. And the way I can explain it to you is that there are so many scenes in that film where no dialogue is being spoken on camera. Like, normally in the film, when you'll see when I'm talking, the camera's on me, and when you're talking, the camera's on you. Jaws, it's the other way around. Most times people are not talking and the other person is, because the dialogue was put in later on. Because the scenes didn't work. An example of a perfect scene, for an example of that is, go and watch the scene in Jaws where the two guys go take the hunk of meat and go and fish, can we go home now? And they've got their big chunk of meat. And that. None of the dialogue is on camera. They're not saying any of that dialogue. It's a couple of stunt guys that were taken out and just shot the scene. The whistling, all that. Can we go home now? It's all ad-lib. It's all dubbed later on. Yeah. It was Spielberg saying, hey, we just need to go and shoot something because we're dying here and we have nothing. There's one line of dialogue on camera in that whole scene. It's a miracle how it's kind of fudged together. And the other thing is, you can tell how bad the continuity is just go to the end and watch the last 45 minutes. And I play a game of this with you where take a shot every time you see the wrong amount of barrels on the front of the boat. Because there are 3 barrels, 4 barrels, 2 barrels, 3 barrels, 4 barrels, 2 barrels, 3 barrels, 4 barrels. But it doesn't matter because it's amazing and it's got this great dialogue and this great chemistry between the 3 actors and the shark works, even though it's notorious for not working. It really did work. And there's still to this day 2 or 3 moments in that film that are brilliantly done that you would have the hardest job doing with all of the technology. The scene where the guy in the little rowing boat is pulled off the boat and you see the shark sideways underneath, grab his leg and pull him down in one shot. Spectacular. And here's the thing, on Piranha 3 Double D, which is a terrible film, awful film, we ended up doing inserts for the piranha breaking out of the vents at the swimming pool where they're supposed to be breaking out. And we went to a swimming pool in a house in the San Fernando Valley. And as I'm there, the locations coordinator comes up to me and said, this is a great little pool, right? And I actually said something like, this is a great pool. And they went, yeah, this house used to belong to Verna Fields. And I went, the editor of Jaws. Mm-hmm. And she went, yeah. And I said, so the Ben Gardner headshot. And she shot in that pool. Holy shit!
Oh, wow.
The Ben Gardner head where that was filmed.
And they haven't changed the chlorine since. It's actually the same chlorine.
But then I said, the little pool house, and I'm like, so that pool house? And she's like, yeah, that was Verna Fields editing.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
That was insane. So that was very cool.
Did you going back to Piranha, the Triple D,
3 Double D?
Yeah, directed by
John Gulager directed that one.
Oh, okay, sorry. I had
not Piranha 3D.
Right.
Piranha 3 Double D. The sequel
D,
to the
yes. The sequel. Okay, I had to get that straight in my head for a second. Sorry. Question from the chat. Another one for you is, and keep in mind what we are or aren't working on. What is a theme or movie or anything that you think should be made into a pinball machine? What would you like to see?
Oh, wow. Good Lord. Wow, that's a tricky one, right?
Yeah. Well, this is the question that, like, pinball people, it's all we talk about. It's just, this would be, like, that's the one thing with pinball. It almost, like, ruins movies a little bit for you because every movie you watch, you just start thinking, can we make this into a game or not? Like, it just takes a little piece out of it.
I guess what I would go for is there's a movie that suddenly popped in my head. Only because I have, in my workshop, so in my office, I have posters of films that I've worked on. But in my workshop, I have posters of films that inspired me. And it's usually because of the artwork that inspired me.
Yeah.
So there are several films on the wall. So obviously there's a Star Wars poster, and there's a Jaws poster, and like a Superman poster. But the poster that when I was a kid, of a movie that I wanted the movie to be so much better than it was, and I dreamed about doing a sequel to it for years. I wanted to do a proper sequel. They did do a remake of it, but the remake was diabolical. But the poster is a film called Rollerball.
Rollerball.
Have you ever seen Rollerball?
I'm gonna double check. I've seen a lot of things growing up that my dad exposed me to. Let's see.
Rollerball, the poster of Rollerball, the 1976 version of the 1974 version of the film, is James Caan like with this giant spiked glove and giant spiked helmet of this game they play, which is like a roller derby, but they're like on motorcycles and with spiked gloves.
Yeah.
And the idea is there's no war in the future, but there is rollerball. So I guess I would like to see a rollerball, a proper, not the shitty remake that was done with what's his name, but maybe a 1970s rollerball movie. Only because that's a movie I can think that's never been turned into a rollerball, into a pinball. So, and it's a steel metal ball that's going around that people having to chase around at 120 miles an hour. So I think it lends itself to a pinball machine.
I absolutely freaking love this answer right now because I pulled up the poster. I've seen the poster. That's a super famous poster.
So when I
haven't seen the original movie.
7 years old and saw that poster at my local cinema, I was like, what is that? Look at that. That's like the greatest movie ever made. And the scenes of the rollerball in the film are great. And I wanted to do, like I say, for years I dreamed about doing and I actually have it's in my other room, but I have a gloved hand with the spikes holding a silver steel ball. So what else? God, it's tricky, right? I mean,
that did just become my new favorite answer, though.
Hellraiser,
that anybody's ever given.
Hellraiser.
Oh, yeah.
Let's do a Hellraiser one. I mean, geez, the fun we could do with that. The box could open when you do.
I think we have a qualified enough freaking guy for the topper.
Amazing pinhead topper, the Cenobites. You know what I mean? Yeah. Leviathan. I mean,
I was gonna say, get me a box that opens up.
Yeah,
everything.
absolutely.
Gosh,
instead of doing an attic, you do an attic instead of a basement. And Frank's up there, and a mattress where something comes out the mattress. Even yeah.
I remember I was at a convention. I have an original Hellraiser poster, and Doug Bradley was doing a horror convention near me, and we always just tend to go to this one. And I was like, oh, it'd be really cool to have him sign this. So we always have a little booth set up at it, and we had our Halloween pinball machine sitting over there. And I introduced myself. I was like, hi, my name's Bug. I have the Halloween pinball machine over there. And he was like, oh, yeah, I played it earlier. It's really cool. You guys should do a Hellraiser one. And I was like, yeah, I mean, obviously I'm a huge fan, like the tattoo, the poster. I'm having you sign it. Like, yeah, I love Hellraiser. I would love to do it. And he was like, yeah. He's like, you could probably sell, 3 or 4 of those, I bet. How many of the Halloweens did you do? And I was like, 1,200. And he was like, oh, well, I'm going to have to negotiate for a lot more money then. And I was like, well, maybe we'll talk.
I mean, really, I think that would probably be a great idea. I mean, I think a Hellraiser pinball machine would be tremendous.
It's one of those ones where it, as a machine, as gameplay goes, the cool things you could do with opening the box, you hooking the ball with various things, and the Cenobites, and like even the pillar in the movie 3 pillar would be kind of a neat thing to have in there that spins around. Yeah. And it's like, as a functional machine and like game rules thing, it would be so great. It's exactly like Saw in that way, where it makes perfect sense to do it.
And also the Bruce Campbell, like you did have in narrating the game, you get Doug to do the voices for it, you know what I mean? And doing stuff, like, oh no, tears please, it's a waste of good suffering, when you
such classic
the game, when you lose your last ball, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
I just realized I'm wearing Hellraiser pajama pants right now too. I have Pinhead on my thigh with demons to some, angels to others, which I've thought about just getting this pair of pajama pants tattooed onto me.
Oh, there you go.
Just keep adding more Hellraiser tattoos. No, I love it that we have Hellraiser.
I think Hellraiser one would be amazing, and I think
2 is actually my favorite.
Oh, really? 2's amazing.
I love it. It's my favorite one. I find myself going to rewatch that one the most, mostly because I've seen the first one like 20 times, and I can take a break from seeing it. There's a lot of stuff out there I got to see still, but 2, if I get the opportunity and that one pops up, it's like, yeah, I kind of like to.
Yeah, Dr. Chin.
Although somebody was saying Motel Hell would be good.
Motel Hell, there you go, yeah. There are
Awesome.
some horror films out there that would really lend themselves to a good, like Phantasm or something. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like some good.
They're talking about Phantasm in the chat too, believe it or not. And I'm qualified to do Phantasm because I live in a funeral home too. So
Oh, there you go. Okay.
yeah, I live in a funeral home and I work with the Silver Ball. So I think I'm qualified. I don't know.
Mhm.
Maybe that does it. um, can you tease anything about maybe not with it? Actually, no. Here, let me. This is another one I wanted to ask you. What is one of your favorite projects you got to work on outside of film? You know, you mentioned you did some mazes with my friend Jason, our friend Jason. You got to do the topper, of course, for Evil Dead. What are some other like really cool projects you've gotten your hands on outside of film that you look back at and like, oh, I'd love to do something else like that again today, or just have really fond memories of?
Well, I mean, one that was very allowed me to go to places that I hadn't been before was I recently did. We did 2 figures or installations for a company called SK2 in Malaysia and China, and they were super hyper realistic, oversized figures of Chinese deities. Super realistic, very very specific work, and it was working in a super high end mall, you know, like for a very high quality product. So it was making these very oversized figures that were built into the store and making those and being involved in the making of them and then going and installing them and spending time at these amazing locations and then get to go to, you know, various parks in China and
Wow. Okay. Cool.
yeah, literally, and went to the Great Wall and all that kind of stuff. And then do one in Malaysia, so get to go to the Petrosian Towers and all that kind of thing, and go to Batu Caves. So normally it's a different, very different lifestyle to filmmaking in that I'm not getting covered in blood every day. So
Yeah.
you
You're
know,
not touching Neil Patrick Harris's butt, and
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a very different kind of vibe, and you're clean, and you know, more of a consultant and that kind of thing. So those were quite recent and were a lot of fun to do. Trying to think what else, other things. I mean, I've done some disguise makeups on people, which are kind of interesting. Where
disguise makeups.
yeah, for people who are very famous and don't want to be known.
Really?
Yeah, to go into parks and things and to walk around. And that's kind of weird, you know.
Yeah, that's an odd one.
Yeah.
Did they personally approach you? Like,
Yeah,
what was that like?
their management did, you know, and said. Well, at first you're kind of worried because you're thinking, is it someone trying to do a bank robbery? You know.
Right, yeah. Like what do we try? My first thought I went to was I've heard about like FBI and CIA that like have to do
which does happen in our industry as well. I have a friend of mine who it would be funny. I'd be like, "Oh, what are you working on?" And be like, "Oh, stuff," you know. And you'd be like, "Well, what?" And you go over there and you'd be like, "They'd cover everything up." And I go, "That's cool." They say it's for makeup for a project or masks. These masks are really cool. And they're like, and then you go, like, "Oh, it's Secret Service stuff," and they were like, "No."
Yeah.
I can't tell you that if that's the case or not. I'm not allowed to say. And I'll be like, oh, wow, so that's cool. And that goes back, there's a great history of that within the industry with John Chambers, who was a kind of legendary makeup artist. He did stuff that's kind of talked about in Argo and stuff like that. But yeah, some of our industry do that, same as disguise makeup for celebrities sometimes. So that's kind of interesting stuff.
Can you say who they were?
No, I dropped.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
We don't have to do that.
Yeah, you know, but and again, sometimes it's usually like, hey, we don't need to go this far. I think sometimes celebrities feel that they need to be covered up, whereas you like, honestly, it's almost like it's like what we call I've designed illusions for magicians as well, and we talk about this in the magic industry. What we call a magician's guilt, which is where a magician thinks that you're seeing something when they're not. You know, you've done the trick properly and they can't tell. And sometimes with celebrities, it's like, honestly, we can put you in sunglasses and dark hair and people won't recognize you. And they're like, no, they will. And it's like, they won't. They're used to seeing blonde if you've got dark hair and you're wearing glasses. And they're like, they won't. I'm like, look, put this wig on, put these glasses on. I'm going to take you downstairs to meet your mum, you know, your parents or someone or a friend. And they don't know who they are. And they go, you didn't know it was me? And you're like, no, right, you know. Like I did a makeup on somebody once, and I'd finished the makeup, and it was actually a really nice moment. I'd done the makeup on them, and they went somewhere, and they were standing talking to their agent. And somebody walked up and said, "Hey, do you know where so and so is?" And they went, "Sorry to interrupt. Do you know where so and so is?" And this person went, "It's me." And they were like, oh my God. I thought you were some random person who was here. And they're like, no, it's me. And they're like, wow. And the person looked at me and was like, good job. You know? So, yeah. But, you know, so those are interesting things. But don't tend to get those calls as often as now.
Right.
But, yeah, the figures project that we did in Malaysia and China was very nice. And they paid us very well, and they flew us first class, and that was great. So you're staying in really nice hotels and being treated very nicely, and you know, you're installing a figure. So you go in there for a week and waiting while they finish the store, and so you're just going out every day and eating and going around the city, and then you put this figure in and stand back and go, there it is, and they go, this is amazing. You go, thank you, Fritz, spray, there you go, and then you're like, you know, so nice work if you can get it, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you ever want to come to Benton, Wisconsin, we'll really roll out the red carpet for you.
Hey,
I don't know if it'll be China or Malaysia, but Wisconsin's all right. Wisconsin's, you know, it's got its charm.
Yeah. Good cheese.
Yeah, we are. You know, it's funny because, like, Wisconsin, the cheese stereotype, you know, most stereotypes about places, they're, like, kind of true or, like, half-assed true, but people are like, aha, yeah, the cheese. No, the cheese thing is real. It's absolutely real. Like, we are so obsessed with it, it's not even funny. I eat so much cheese all the time. It's absolutely true. It's the most real stereotype in the planet. It's the Wisconsin cheese thing.
I will look forward to it. When we do our third machine, I'm going to come out and visit.
Yeah, do it. Yeah, you know, you're always welcome. And yeah, we got to meet in person one of these days. Absolutely. I'm still trying to meet Jason as well. I might be out in Vegas next year. Maybe you can make a little road trip over.
Absolutely.
We can all party.
Interesting, yeah.
Awesome. Well, Gary, I appreciate you coming on to the show so much.
Are we done?
This is usually about what we go for, yeah. Unless you want to start running through the entire catalog. I mean, we can hit it.
On the next one, on part 2.
We can do a part 2.
After we reveal the...
Yes. Yeah. We'll have you back on after...
That which cannot be discussed.
Yes.
Who shall not be named and, you know, who cannot be talked about.
Yeah. We will... This will be perfect. Yeah, we'll have you back on after we get through the next game, and we'll go through the rest of the movies and everything. But dude, this was great just to sit down and chat about all these things. I got to learn a lot more, and I got some questions I'm going to ask you off air, to say the least.
Well, it's been a pleasure. You know, it's so cool. So I appreciate it, and it's great, kind of like getting to talk to everybody, and you know, it's exciting to be involved in something that's having a. It's like I say. It's weird in real time to watch a reaction go around the industry. You know, like the day that you released the announcement video, was clicking on these sites as it was being picked up, and just seeing people's reactions. It was really, really quite wonderful to behold. You know what I mean? So hopefully we can you know, see it happen again and again.
Yeah, it's really great to have you be a part of that process, because I mean that's the most special day of my life. Every time it happens is that day, and it's cool to have you on board for it, and to make it even more special and make it so much better now too. We're going to keep doing it time and time again.
I look forward to it. I look forward to the challenge and trying to up the bar each time and trying to come with something that people are like. Again, it's really about these machines are so incredible anyway. But if we can have like a little frosting on top of it, on top of the cake, or a little crown on things, then what we're trying to do is create something, you know, it's like a little like a piece of art, you know, that goes on top of it as well. Because they are these whole games with the artwork on the side and the amount of work that goes into the gameplay. I mean, they're artwork, I think. So
absolutely awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, guys, thank you for tuning into the stream. We'll be back again next week, 7 p.m. Central, Thursday, to play some new Evil Dead code. We got Destroy the Book and Kitchen Fight. We're going to be back to playing some games. And then after that, I've got some more really cool interviews coming up as well. So until the next time, do something spooky for me. And me and Gary are signing off. Cheers, everybody.
Yeah,
we'll see you next week. Have a good one.